Think about your mom. Think about your mom. Now think about the last time that she asked you something and you had to decide what to say, how to say it, or if you ought to even say anything at all. I see some shifting in the body language around the room. You kind of know, you never know what the flavor is of the conversation that you're going to have with your mom. For me, one of the things that recently happened was my mom said, I think we should go on a family vacation. And my brain went ding, 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 ding. Oh, okay. And I was like, schedule, time, money, the kids, what's going on, work, this, and everything started activating. And it was a lot for me to manage and also determine, in my own body, do I even want this? But she said it, and so I was off on the way to try to make that happen. And that is what I call daughtering. Daughtering is the often invisible labor that women do in families to keep everyone connected, to be the glue. It's the logistical, emotional, cognitive, and identity labor that women are doing in families, and often we're doing it so much and we don't even realize how much until we're burnt out. And so today I want to talk to you about daughtering and about what daughtering is often costing us. Feel free to come and go, no problem. We're making it work. So daughtering, I discovered and have talked about, I certainly didn't make up the word, but I popularized this word based on over 10 years of research. I'm Dr. Allison Alford. I'm a social scientist. I have a PhD in communication studies. Come on in. From the University of Texas at Austin. We have some dramatic light moments here we'll handle. And I started this research over 10 years ago, asking women, come on in. You're stuck now. No, ma'am. Whichever you decide, come and go. I was realizing through my research on family communication that there was a lot of discussion about parents and parenting, mothers and mothering, friendship, dating, marriage, a lot of things where we noticed, hey, we've got to put some effort into that if we want to have a good outcome of our relationship. But what we weren't talking about was the role of daughters in a family. And if it did come up, we didn't have quite the words to use to describe it. If I only had $1 for every time someone said, I'm mothering my mother, or my mom and I are best friends. If I had $1, I probably wouldn't be here. I might be off in Norway or somewhere having a good travel. That's on the bucket list. But I asked, over the past 10 years through the studies that I've done, I've asked hundreds of women, what does it mean to be an adult daughter? What do adult daughters do? What is daughtering? And so what this does is it reframes how we think about the active way that we show up in families. And that's why I use the word daughtering. It's an active word. It identifies that we have agency within our family. We are not stuck in what we got and who we got, and that's all we have. We have a choice. So, as I said, I am a professor. Well, I said that before we started, so I'll add that. My daughter and I, my lovely assistant, 16-year-old daughter, is here with me. We're visiting from Texas. Props to her. She's even on brand with the color choice. And so as a professor at Baylor, I work in the business school, and so I'm privileged to both teach business students communication skills, like how to get it done, how to give presentations, emails, how to talk to people, but I also get to continue my research on family communication and daughtering. And so recently completed a study, a qualitative study, where we asked over 300 women in one-on-one interviews, talk about your mom, talk about what the relationship is like, talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what I discovered is that when we think about daughtering as active, what is also revealed is that daughtering is a form of work. It's labor. Okay, in the same way that as a mom, I can say being a mom is hard work. I can also like it. I can say something is work and then also like it. So when I say daughtering is work, I'm not trying to create some complaint or, say, what a pain point. I'm just identifying that I use resources when I am daughtering. And so resources are things like time, energy, people, money. These are in limited quantities in my life. And so I can only give so much of them before my battery runs out. And that's sort of the chronic problem that women are having, women in midlife. And often we're having that problem without realizing that we are allowed to say that's my problem. Because when we think about daughtering, many of us go straight to our own mom who's caring for our grandpa in his 90s. Oh, we're like, yes, oh, my mom is doing this daughtering. No, I'm talking about you. You and you and you and you and me. All adult women. And if you know a daughter, if you love a daughter, if you are a daughter, then daughtering touches your life. And so what the research revealed is not only that this is an active role portrayal, that it's a form of work that uses our resources, but we can categorize that into 4 different kinds of work, and much of those are invisible. And so in my research, I found that the types of daughtering work are acting, thinking, feeling, and being. And these are different types of work that we perform. So acting work is the most obvious. If I swing by Starbucks and get a coffee and take it to my mom at work, I'm doing an active service. When I buy a Christmas gift or fill up the Christmas stocking, because, nobody else did, or if they need help, mom or dad, in their house, and I go over and help them paint a room or help my dad clean out the garage. These are acts. I'm acting. And this one's the most visible form of daughtering. But again, our mind tends to go to elderhood or sickness. Okay? So the next kind is thinking work. Thinking work is cognitive. Thinking work is planning ahead. It is logistics. One woman told me, I'm the family CEO. It is also removing roadblocks. When I see them coming, I go fix it and remove it, and then nobody has to deal with that problem because I took care of it. That is, of course, invisible because it's all up here. One woman told me that she is started putting money in a bank account in her 20s to help take care of her parents decades later in elderhood, because as an only daughter, it was stressing her out to think, what will it be like when my parents need help? Will I be financially ready? She didn't tell them. She and her partner talked about it, and he supported her doing that. But daughtering doesn't have to be something that's happening one-on-one interaction between you and your parent. So the first one was acting, very visible. The second type of labor is thinking. It's invisible. The next type of invisible labor is the feeling work. Hochschild said there's 2 types of work and emotion labor. And those are different, but it's the soothing and the smoothing. It's being at the dining table and kind of being the emotional barometer and making sure everyone's okay. It's fixing conflict in the family or deciding whether or not I'm going to be in conflict with you or show you that I'm in conflict with you. Once again, it's inside my body. It's not something that you necessarily know what it costs me to be at a holiday family weekend travel experience with you, or to take your phone calls when all of a sudden I hear that tone in your voice and I just know, okay, it's one of those calls. So the 4th kind of labor is being labor or identity labor. And this is the least discussed form of labor, but it's how do I act like a daughter all throughout my life, whether I'm around my parent or not. And this is particularly salient for those of you who have lost a parent, because daughtering doesn't stop when your parent is no longer around. Similarly, if you're estranged or disconnected from your parent, there's still the identity of who am I? What is our family legacy? What do I pass down? What family secrets will I break and not pass down? Do I look or sound like my parent? What are our traditions? What's the magic making? Which we all know isn't magic, it's women's labor. So, as you can tell, much of daughtering labor is invisible. That means other people don't know that we're doing it, and oftentimes what I discovered is that we don't know that we're doing it, and we don't realize our battery is drained. And that's why I'm here to talk about how to go from A+ daughtering to B+ daughtering, okay? That's the mode of the day. Now, some of you may have just broke out in hives because you're smart, dedicated, educated women who are like, B+, I couldn't possibly. But I want to bring you back. Some of you are familiar with the psychologist David Winnicott's work on attachment theory. And this psychologist told these young mothers of infants, they were so stressed out, they weren't sleeping, they were constantly monitoring the baby. Like, what if I don't get to the baby in time? So then their own health was falling apart. And Winnicott said to these mothers, all you have to be is a good enough mother, and the baby will thrive. And I want to suggest to you is that all you need to be is a good enough daughter, and your parent will be okay. Even better, they're a fully functioning adult. For many of us, especially for the majority of our lifespan, our parents are healthy. They're independent. They have their own finances. They have their own community. They have partners. They have neighbors. They have other children, right? So there are more people in the community than you. But what's happening is that we're experiencing this burnout because we rarely talk about daughtering. In fact, you may have never used that word in your vocabulary before today when you said, I'm going to the good daughtering session. Thank you for being here. So what this creates is an area ripe for burnout. Because if we don't know what good enough is, then we're constantly striving and spinning our wheels. We're comparing to other people. And yet we haven't even asked ourselves, what do I think a good daughter is? What do my parents think would be good from me? So that's what I want us to do, is notice that we're missing language, and much of this work is invisible, and that creates this trap that leads to burnout, because we just can't stop spinning our wheels. So what we're going to do today is notice our own daughtering, and we're going to take stock of it, and we're going to do a little mental calibration, asking ourselves, what do I think is good enough? So one of the ways that I have done that, not only did I write a book, and it has activities at the end of every chapter that help you go through some of this, but I've had conversations with my parents. I've had conversations, I have in-laws. Some of you may have step-parents, step-in-laws, half this and that. Family is complicated. And so you may have many people in your life who you are daughtering. But I want you to make a rubric for yourself. Again, back to that professor side of me. When I assign something to my students at Baylor University, I give them a rubric, because all business students want to know how to be an A+++ student. And it has different things, in each line. You could do it weak, you could do it, medium, you can do it really well. And so I started thinking about that for myself. What do I think for visits to my parents? What's enough? And I had a talk with my partner, my husband, about that, and we agreed we would try to go see my parents once a quarter. Now, I have to drive to see them, and we have kids in high school with sports and jobs and other activities, and so that's where we're at in that stage of our life. Your parent may live down the street, or they may live across the country. And so it's up to each of you to decide or calibrate, if I could do it perfectly, what would I do? And I want you to do that for phone calls, and I want you to do that for emotional energy, and I want you to do that for planning for the future or the finances that you put towards this relationship. And after you create what would be an A+ perfect rubric, then I want you to take that rubric and aim for a B+. Because if 4 quarters go by and I only see my parents or visit their house in 3 of those quarters, I don't feel like, man, I just completely failed as a daughter. I've got other items on the rubric that I can calibrate, and I'm also aware there's more quarters coming. I can try again. And I'm not a complete failure, and therefore I don't just give up. I can move forward and keep trying to balance that B+ mindset. And what that B plus mindset does is it gives me space. It gives me cognitive space because I have other things going on in my life. I have a job, a full-time job. I have hobbies. I have friends. Some of us in my stage of life, 44 years old, we seem to be obsessed with mahjong. I don't know if it's coming to your community, but if it hasn't yet, it's coming for you. That's all you can pick in your 40s is like gardening, book club, mahjong, and I don't know. Happy hours. Pickleball. There you go. So how do we do that? How do we examine our lives and think, okay, I agree with you. First, I see there's a lot of stuff I've been doing that I wasn't giving myself credit for. I was only measuring one row of the rubric, if I even had a rubric. Second, I was trying to compete with everybody and their family and their culture and their ages and their countries of origin and their finances and their energy levels. And I can only manage mine. So if we buy into the idea that you want to be B plus because you want a little space in your life, what should you do? What should you do to move to that space? So I have a couple of tips for you. And the first one is elegantly simple. It is say no. That's the whole first tip. No is a complete sentence. Here's the thing. We're not used to saying no. We're really not used to saying no. So I'm up here. I'm a doctor. Not the medical kind, but one kind of doctor, giving you the prescription and the permission to say no. Because you have to keep some of that battery life for yourself in other spaces in your life. Now that may sound really difficult. What do you mean, say no? My parents not gonna like that. My brother and sister will really hate that because I do everything. Or if I don't bring the special family tradition cake to the July 4th event, then there won't be a cake. Correct. You're going to let that happen. Because nobody else is even going to learn how to do the cake unless you let it go. And so it's not going to be pleasant. I'm not saying that's a super easy tip for you to implement. But I like to think about shifts in our daughtering as like putting on a pair of braces. Okay? The teeth, you're looking at your family, you're looking at your daughtering, it's kind of gnarly. It's not going to feel pleasant every day. And it's not going to be fast. These are small shifts over time that you have to stay committed to. So my second tip for you on what to do if you want to change your daughtering, you've noticed it, you've decided, okay, what makes a good daughtering level? Now how do I change it? My second tip for you is microdosing daughtering. Have you heard of microdosing other things? Okay. You don't necessarily need a big dose of the medicine, of the prescriptive item. You can give a microdose. Now, here's what I notice a lot of women saying to me in my research, that doing daughtering feels like such a big thing. I have to give hours of my time to this phone call, or I have to give days or a week of my life to this visit, or I have to give all of my emotional bandwidth when there's an interaction or, to keep myself sane. I would like to recommend to you that you think about what it is you're willing to give in any area, and you give that in a small dose. So for me, sometimes when I go around my mom, loving, I've written about my mom a lot, talked about my mom a lot. I think we have a really healthy relationship where we find each other extremely annoying and love each other, but, keep some distance as well. I don't want to talk about every single thing with her. But if I don't start with what I do want to talk about, she's just going to ask, and she's going to pick and poke, and a lot of times she's going to pick the one thing that's like, So I pick the conversations, and I give them to her willingly. Whether that is in a text message, I love the 10-minute phone call, which is, hey, Mom, driving home from work, I've got 10 minutes. Do you have 10 minutes? And 10 minutes is a bandwidth battery level that I can give. And I try on those phone calls because all she wants is information about me. And I try to give what I can. So maybe I don't want to talk about that workplace jerk I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I just left work and I need to download. So I'll talk about one of my kids. She's a grandparent, so grandparents love having information about their kids. So I suggest to you microdosing. Send a meme, send a news article and say, isn't that funny? Let them into a story about your life. Or turn on the FaceTime and hand it to the grandkid and say, 5 minutes, go. And use the resources that you have. Ask your partner to step in. Wave the white flag and your partner's like, oh, okay. Hey, did you see that construction out there on the road? So use your resources. And so I think that with microdosing, we take back some control. And that control allows us to feel like I'm not just going to be ambushed, or family isn't just happening to me, but I have some control over how to do daughtering. And that's what I want to encourage you, and that's what the book is about, is you're not stuck. You play an active role in the way this relationship turns out. And while there's no magic wand that can just make your parent different or your relationship wholly different, it's worth working on, because we need to stay connected to these people. So the first part is kind of like, look at this pain point. Here's all this labor that you're doing. And the second part is, okay, I see that. Do I want to do less? Do I want to do more? Do I want to do it differently? And then the third part is, how do I talk to these people? How do I communicate in a way that becomes manageable in my life so that I can hang on to this family? Because research has shown us that families are essential for our long-term well-being. We need them. When we fall down, we need them to be there. So of course, we can't just be strong all the time. They won't have any idea how to hold us up if we never give them a chance to see where the need is. And now we're really good at seeing where the need is, right? Daughters, we look at the family, we're like, oh my gosh, my brother's doing this, my aunt's doing that, my stepdad is always such and such. Just because you can see the need doesn't mean it's yours to carry. So we have to create boundaries with ourselves too. We have to be the one who knows when it's time to plug in the battery and recharge, which means stepping away. So you have to be the first person to give yourself permission that your overall long-term well-being is worth it. And when you do that, you make space to have a B+ relationship. And let me tell you, you can get all the way through grad school with a B+. You can. And nobody will ever ask you about it ever again. You don't need to be doing what everybody on Instagram is doing. You don't have to be doing whatever your neighbor next door says that they're doing with their parent. Your situation is unique. And you get to decide, what's a good life? What is a good life? And so one of the things I think about when I calibrate what is a good life is happiness. And I go to Martin Seligman's work on happiness and eudaimonic versus hedonic happiness. So hedonic happiness is the stuff that's fun right in the moment. A Taylor Swift concert, buying myself clothes at Lululemon, did that yesterday. Maybe a cupcake. Or I think we would like to go to a family interaction and have it be fun, laughter, peaceful, so refreshing. And yet we don't always get to do that. Like, I'm a homeowner. As a homeowner or home mortgager, I have to take out the trash. I have to cut limbs on the trees. Every 10 years you have to replace the roof. I don't enjoy those things, but I do like being a homeowner. And so I want to remind you that the difficult things are necessary for what we call eudaimonic happiness, which is lifelong happiness. What contributes to a life well lived? What do I think a good daughter does? And I'm going to pursue that, but I'm not going to break myself to get to perfection. And I'm going to pursue being the kind of person that I want to be, even if it's not the same as my mom or dad or grandmother's version of what a good daughter is like. I get to decide. That's my agency. That's my active role in daughtering. So I want you to shift your mindset. And these small mindset shifts make a big difference, from A+ to B+, through those tips, and remind you that you are allowed to stay whole while being connected. You can have both. Now, you might end up being called the angry daughter, the grumpy daughter, the mean daughter, or what I call myself and my family is the porcupine daughter. It's not always sweet and pretty, and I say the things nobody else will say. But I'm pretty proud of that. I kind of like that about myself. And you can have that, the messy, difficult parts of life, and you're still worthy in your family to be loved, to be accepted, and to be included without having to earn it all the time. And you deserve that, but you have to grasp it. So I welcome you to join me online if you are interested. My pages are all at Daughtering 101. This is my new book, which just came out in February. I was really grateful to be featured on Good Morning America, and we have the books outside for sale if you're interested in that. Or you can Amazon it to your house if you've flown here from Texas like we have. But I'm really grateful for your time, and mostly I just want you to take good care of yourself. B+ is the way to be. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, question.
So I'm curious about what you would say were the intentionality behind parenting shifts in stages of life. So, for example, I'm mid-40s, my parents are 70s.
Yeah.
And so it took me about the last 15 years to convince them I'm not their baby.
Yeah.
Right? But also now I have a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old. And teaching them I'm not their parent, I'm an adult with them. Like, I don't pay for that 25-year-old. So...
Okay, let me first say that the next session's in 15 minutes, so do what you need to do. Come and go and get where you need to go, so don't feel like you need to wait just because I'm talking. But the question was, what do we do? How does daughtering change over time? What about when we're in different parenting life stages? And I think some of that is, other women address some of this in research, like on the sandwich generation. But I try really hard to stay inside the mindset that my daughtering role is me toward my parents. And so when I'm doing something with my child for the benefit of my child, I'm mothering. But if I try to get her to do something to help me be a good daughter, then I'm managing other people in my family for the purpose of daughtering. And that shifts over time. And everything's contextual, right? So my parents are in the baby boomer generation. And so the way that, and my mom's mom was a single mom. And, they were poor. Her mom lived through the Great Depression. There's just a lot of different daughtering from the 50s to the 2000s than from the 80s when I was born till now. And so everything's contextual. I do want to remind or tell everyone in the book, in chapter 5, I go into intersectional daughtering. And so I think it's really important to notice, things like race, ethnicity, age, gender, sexuality, political differences, whether or not you have siblings or no siblings. All of these things will shift and impact the way that you do daughtering. And what we can't do is take all of that context out of the conversation and then act like I should just do it like someone else, or that my parent can say to me, well, do it the way that I did it. Because we live in a different generation. We live in different politics. We live with different technology. I think as many of us live in different financial situations than what we grew up in. And all of those things matter. And so the key is to notice I get to decide. I get to take the full scope of the picture and say, what is the context here? And the context matters, and then I get to decide how to shape my daughtering from there. Other questions?